Let's make crashing a thing of the past. As someone who raced at a high level for many years, these are the tips that gave me an edge. Number 1. Increase the FOV of your mirrors for better visibility. In your sim settings, try to find if you can adjust the FOV of the virtual mirror. This will be huge because you can see a lot more with a higher FOV. Here's the comparison of what you can see behind. Low versus high mirror FOV. Is it realistic to have such a wider FOV? Nah. But is it good for surviving? For sure. All the esport level racers are running this wider FOV since it gives you an obvious competitive advantage. Number 2. Don't leave too much space between you, the track, and the other car. Too many crashes happen because drivers are too nice on initial entry and leaving plenty of space. The problem is that the driver that leaves more space than needed will be in a tough position later on. This relaxed approach leads to number 3. Slowing down too much is not safe. Trying to be extra safe can backfire. Slowing down too much lets other drivers take advantage and forces you to overcompensate mid-corner, which increases crash risk. Also, braking early might catch other drivers off guard. Instead, aim to drive consistently and confidently. It's safer for you and those around you. The next 3 tips are something that allowed me to finish 10 races in a row without a single incident. So tip number 4. Have multiple braking references in a corner. It's all nice and fine when you're leading the race, but if you're stuck in a pack, many of your braking references won't be visible. Also, if the car you're trying to overtake is blocking your braking reference, how do you know where to brake? You'll always be guessing, and that leads to a higher chance of an incident. Instead, try finding multiple braking references for all the corners. It will give you more flexibility on the track, and while doing this, you'll also work on your vision. You'll start to pick up references quicker, and as a result, you'll spend less time learning a new track. Next on the list is always looking ahead. If you get caught in other people's wrecks, that's a sign you're lacking awareness. Some crashes can't be avoided, but many incidents require awareness. Tunnel visioning is a common problem for a lot of sim racers. They're looking mostly in front of the car and they lose track of what's happening ahead. If that's what you're doing, you have to focus more on the horizon line. Yes, we're looking at our references, but we should see those, not with the main vision. Our attention should be on what's happening in front, especially when you're in a tight pack and drivers are trying to make a pass. Coming up next, how to fine-tune your setup for perfect visibility and avoid tunnel vision on the track. Number 6. Make sure you're running the correct FOV setting. When it comes to field of view, a lot of sim racers get it wrong. Running the correct FOV means setting it to match your real-life vision. Too narrow and you lose your sense of speed and positioning. Too wide and you're distorting the view, which makes judging distances harder. Finding the sweet spot by calibrating it to your monitor size and the distance from your eyes. This is key. It might take a bit of experimenting, but once it's right, you'll be way more confident in every turn. Quick note, while a lower FOV will make you feel almost like time is slowing down, and for many racers this means quicker lap times, when you're competing against other cars, that lower FOV can bite you back. With the ultra-wide monitor, I have this issue too, and what I did was binding on my wheels the buttons to look left or right. This helps a lot if you're not using triple screens. Another tip to deal with side-by-side action is using overlays and spotters. Overlays and spotters are game changers. Radar views and proximity warnings help you stay alert to nearby cars, while a spotter can signal threats and guide your moves. More info to process? Yes. But is it worth it, that extra set of virtual eyes? Absolutely. Number 8. Don't force a 3-wide. It sounds exciting, right? Well, it's also a recipe for disaster if you're not experienced with it. If you're not confident you can hold your line perfectly, don't go for a 3-wide. There's almost no margin for error, and a slight mistake can take out everyone involved. Save the risky moves for later in the race or when you know the drivers around you are skilled and trustworthy. Which leads to number 9. If you're going to end up in a 3-wide, make sure you're not in the middle. The golden rule for this case: don't be the meat in the sandwich. The middle position is the worst spot to be in a 3-wide situation because you have zero room for adjustment. Having a car on each side leaves no room for error, so if you're in that position, try to get out of it as soon as possible. Number 10. Good versus bad vision when following a car. If you're only looking at the car in front of you, that's tunnel vision and it's risky. You want to keep your eyes on the car but also look further ahead beyond it to spot braking zone and upcoming turns and also dangers. barriers. This wider vision gives you more time to react and keeps you from being caught off guard by sudden moves or incidents up ahead. Just with these 10 tips, I can guarantee you'll be finding a lot of progress on the track. My personal favorite is tip 17, and not many people are talking about it. Stick to the end to see it, because next on the list is practicing the inside line when you're learning the track. Don't just stick with the racing line, practice the inside line as well. Knowing how to take corners from the inside gives you a huge advantage in defensive and overtaking situations. It's also useful for avoiding crashes by positioning yourself out of the line of fire. Depending on the track, the grip levels on the inside line are different, and if you're experiencing it for the first time in an actual race, you might cause an incident. Number 12. Don't be afraid to go off track to avoid a crash. Some sim racers treat going off track like it's a sin, but if avoiding a crash means dipping into the grass, don't hesitate. It's way better than ending up in the barrier or taking out another driver. Even if you get an incident point, it's 100% worth it. But this ties with vision, because most of the times driver will tunnel vision on keeping the car on the track at the expense of avoiding incidents. Of course, when you're going off track to avoid the wreck, try to rejoin the track safely, since that's another reason for a lot of crashes. If you're rejoining a track, the delta bar and the mirrors are your best friends. If you see a driver less than 2 seconds behind you, expect him driving on the racing line and avoid rejoining on the racing line. It's better to lose 2 seconds waiting for the track to be clear and have a chance of a comeback, rather than destroying the race on the spot for both you and the others. Which leads to the next tip: disable FFB crash effects. You can still save the car. Force feedback crash effects might seem cool, but they can actually work against you. When you crash, FFB effects can shake the wheel, make it harder to regain control. Disable those effects in the settings so that if you do lose control, you can focus on recovering instead of fighting the wheel. You'll still feel the road, but you won't be wrestling with an out of control wheel. Still with me? Good, because coming up, we look at how to handle those nerve-wracking first laps when everyone's on cold tires. Number 14. Leave more space in the cold tires lap. The cold tire lap is usually when the most amount of incident happen. On the first lap, give yourself extra space and brake a bit earlier. Cold tires don't have the grip you're used to, so braking distances will be longer and handling will be a bit less predictable. As the tire warm up, you can gradually close the gap, but don't push too hard on the first lap unless you want to end up sliding off the track. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave it a like and let me know in the comments which one of these tips applies the best for you. Number 15. Don't start from the pits. Every race is an opportunity to learn. Starting from the pits might feel safer, but you're actually missing out on a valuable race experience. Every race situations teach you something: overtaking, defensive driving, handling pressure. Even if you're nervous, start on the grid and treat each race as a learning opportunity. The more you race, the better your instincts get. In just a few tips ahead, you'll see a mindset shift that might surprise you, but that can seriously improve your racing. Next on the list is knowing what are the riskier corners for an overtake and avoiding them. Not all corners are made for overtaking. Some corners are just too tight, too narrow, or too fast for safe passing. Learn which ones on each track are riskier for overtakes and avoid them unless you're absolutely certain you can pull it off. There's no shame in waiting for a safer opportunity. It's about racing smart, not just fast. Besides risking a crash, you can also lose more time by forcing an overtake compared with just waiting for the right moment. As a rule of thumb, the high-speed corners are the ones that generally it's not worth trying an overtake, and your best options are the low-speed corners like hairpins or chicanes. Number 17. My personal favorite. Avoid having ratings shown. Race everyone equally. This was huge for me. Seeing another driver's skill level can mess with your approach, either making you too cautious or too aggressive. Race every driver equally, no matter their rating. Focus on your own performance rather than letting someone else's rank influence your style. When I'm racing, I'm not using overlays to see the ratings. It makes me more aware and is definitely something you must try. Number 18. Look in the mirrors for a dive bomb. Dive bombs pitfalls can be avoided. They are common and they're avoidable if you know what to look for. If you see a car closing in fast in your mirrors, chances are they might try to dive bomb into the corner or they did a mistake. Position yourself defensively and keep an eye on them. It's easier to avoid a dive bomb if you're prepared for it rather than being caught off guard. Number 19. Practice AI racing before going online. Spending time racing against AI before jumping online is a smart decision. AI racing allows you to practice handling, racecraft and decision making without the pressure of human opponents. It's a safer environment to get a feel for race scenarios, and you can take the time to correct mistakes without impacting real drivers. And the last tip, number 20, take a break after one bad race. Don't let a bad race ruin your day. After a rough session, take a break to reset. Racing while frustrated or annoyed just leads to more mistakes and crashes. A short break can refresh your focus and help you come back stronger. Remember, sim racing is a marathon, not a sprint. And as a bonus, the mindset. The mindset makes the difference. Starting a race with the goal of crossing the finish line and surviving is a good idea if you've had a couple of bad races. I've had my fair share of bad luck and bad decisions, and changing the goals to just surviving helped me a lot. If these tips helped, leave a comment. Which one are you the most excited to try, or what's been your biggest struggle in avoiding crashes? Don't forget to hit that like button and check out my sim racing course link below. Stay safe.